The slap never landed. Victoria's hand shot out and caught Chae-Rin's wrist mid-air, twisting it just enough to make her point without breaking anything. Chae-Rin screamed, stumbling backward, clutching her hand like it had been set on fire. Staff members froze in the doorway. Somewhere behind them, a tray of drinks crashed to the floor. "How dare you?" Chae-Rin gasped. "You raised your hand first," Victoria said, her voice steady, though her heart was pounding. 12 hours earlier, Victoria had no idea her night in Busan would end like this. It had started as an ordinary evening at a talent show exhibition. Bright lights, loud music, contestants pacing backstage with nervous energy. Victoria knelt in front of her younger sister, fixing the strap on her dress. "Breathe," Victoria said softly. "You didn't come all this way to shrink now." Grace laughed, though her hands were shaking. "What if I mess up?" "Then you mess up." Victoria held her sister's face gently. "But you won't. You've worked too hard for this. Just remember why you started." Grace nodded, taking a deep breath. "Hold on right there. Let me speak to my Afro-Korean chemistry family watching this. If you love stories about strong Black women, powerful Korean men, and love that comes with real protection and real drama, you're in the right place. Like this video, drop a comment telling me where you're watching from, and subscribe so you don't miss what's coming. Because that scene you just saw, the twisted wrist, the screaming judge, that's only the beginning. Let's rewind and see how it started. The host's voice echoed through the hall. "Please welcome our judges for today's session." One by one, the judges walked out and took their seats. The crowd clapped politely, until the last judge stepped forward. She was tall, sharply dressed, her face set in a permanent frown. She didn't smile. She didn't wave. She sat down like she was doing everyone a favor by showing up. "That's Judge Yoon Chae-Rin," someone near Victoria whispered. "She's known for being difficult." Victoria raised an eyebrow but said nothing. Her attention returned to the stage, where Grace was about to walk out. Grace's performance started strong. Her voice was clear, her movements confident. The crowd swayed along, clearly enjoying it. Two of the judges nodded in approval. But Chae-Rin's face didn't change. When Grace finished and stood waiting for feedback, Chae-Rin leaned into her microphone. "Bow properly before you speak to us," she said coldly. Grace blinked, surprised, but bowed politely. "Thank you for watching my performance." "That's not what I asked. Bow lower. Show respect." A murmur spread through the crowd. Victoria's jaw tightened as she watched from the audience. Grace bowed again, deeper this time, confusion flickering across her face. Chae-Rin didn't stop there. "Your technique is weak. Your accent when you sang the Korean lyrics was embarrassing. Honestly, I don't know why some of these international contestants even bother trying." The crowd gasped. One of the other judges shifted uncomfortably but said nothing. Grace's hands trembled slightly, but she lifted her chin. She didn't cry. She didn't argue. She simply said, "Thank you for your feedback," and stood tall. That composure, that quiet dignity, seemed to anger Chae-Rin even more. "Did you not hear me?" Chae-Rin snapped. "I said your performance was weak. Why are you still standing there like that means nothing to you?" Victoria stood up from her seat. People turned to look at her, but she didn't care. She walked toward the front, her heels clicking against the floor with every step. "Excuse me," Victoria said, her voice calm but firm. "This is a talent competition, not an interrogation. There are rules here. You're supposed to critique the performance, not humiliate the contestant." Chae-Rin's eyes narrowed. "And who exactly are you?" "Her sister, and someone who can read the competition guidelines just as well as you can. Apparently better." Victoria's eyes didn't waver. "Follow the protocol." The hall went silent. Chae-Rin's face turned red with anger. "You dare speak to me like that? Do you know who I am?" "I don't need to know who you are to know you're wrong," Victoria replied. "Everyone in this room just watched you disrespect a 22-year-old girl who did nothing but perform her heart out. If you have a problem with her technique, say it professionally. If you have a problem with her, that's a different conversation." and not one you should be having on a public stage. The audience broke into whispers, some clapping quietly in agreement. Chaerin rose to her feet, gripping the edge of the table. "You have no right, and you have no right to abuse your position," Victoria cut in. The argument escalated quickly, voices rising, event officials rushing in from the sides, trying to calm both women down. Chaerin shouted something about outsiders and no respect, while Victoria stood her ground, refusing to back down. Finally, the head organizer stepped between them, hands raised. Please, let's calm down. We will pause today's session. All remaining performances and judging will resume tomorrow." The crowd groaned in frustration, but there was no other way to stop the chaos. Grace was pulled backstage by one of the staff members, still shaken. Victoria followed close behind, her heart pounding, her hands still clenched into fists. That night, back at their hotel room, Victoria paced the floor while Grace sat on the bed, hugging her knees. "You didn't have to do that," Grace said quietly. "What if she messes with my score tomorrow because of this?" "She won't get the chance," Victoria said, though her voice wasn't as steady as she wanted it to be. "Grace, look at me. You worked too hard to let one bitter woman take this from you. I don't care who she thinks she is." Grace managed a small smile. "You sounded really fierce out there. I meant every word." Victoria sat beside her, pulling her into a hug. "We're going to that venue tomorrow, and you're going to finish what you started. I promise you that." Just then, Victoria's phone buzzed on the nightstand. She reached for it, expecting a message from the organizer confirming tomorrow's schedule. Instead, it was something else entirely. A short, cold notice. "Access to tomorrow's session has been restricted for your party. Please contact venue security for further information." Victoria stared at the screen, her stomach tightening. "What is it?" Grace asked, noticing her sister's expression change. Victoria looked up slowly. "I think," she said, "someone just declared war. And somewhere across the city, in a room Victoria hadn't even known existed yet, a man everyone feared was about to hear her name for the very first time." The next morning came fast. Victoria barely slept, running through everything in her mind. The argument, the message, the strange silence that followed. She and Grace arrived at the venue early, ready to check in like every other day. But this time, the guards at the entrance stepped in front of them, arms crossed. "I'm sorry," one of them said. "You're not on the list today." "What do you mean not on the list?" Victoria asked. "We've been checking in here for 2 weeks. Orders came from Judge Yoon," the guard said quietly, almost apologetic. "She said your names should be removed." Grace's face fell. "This can't be happening. Not today. Not the day I'm supposed to perform again." Victoria felt anger rise in her chest, but she kept her voice calm. "Give me a second." She stepped aside and made a call. Victoria had a personal connection to the show's organizer, a contact she had earned through her work in branding, someone who respected her professionally. She rarely used it. She believed people should earn their place through effort, not favors. But this wasn't about favors anymore. This was about fairness. "This is wrong, and you know it," Victoria said firmly into the phone. "My sister has done nothing but perform well. If she's blocked from entering today because of one judge's grudge, that's not a competition anymore. That's abuse of power." Minutes later, they were led inside. Victoria didn't go straight to find seats. She walked with purpose toward the back hallways where the judges prepared before sessions. Grace tried to stop her, but Victoria shook her head gently. "Wait for me by the stage entrance," she said. "I need to speak to her directly." She found Chaerin standing near a mirror, adjusting her earrings, looking as composed and cold as ever. "You blocked us from entering," Victoria said, stepping into the room without waiting for permission. "After everything that happened yesterday, you decided the solution was to punish an innocent girl even more." Chaerin turned slowly, her eyes sharp. "You have some nerve walking in here, and you have some nerve using your position to settle a personal score." Victoria shot back. "This ends today. If you touch my sister's chances again, I will make sure everyone knows exactly what kind of judge you really are." Chae-rin's face twisted with fury. You think you can threaten me? In my own country? I'm not threatening you, Victoria said evenly. I'm warning you. That was the final push. Chae-rin's hand shot up, aiming straight for Victoria's face. But Victoria was faster. She caught Chae-rin's wrist midair and twisted it. Not with cruelty, but with the kind of controlled reflex that comes from someone who refuses to be a victim. Chae-rin cried out in pain, stumbling back, clutching her hand. How dare you? You raised your hand first, Victoria said, letting go and stepping back, her voice steady despite her racing heart. Staff members rushed in at the noise, eyes wide with shock. And then, the room went completely silent. Han So-tae had walked in. His presence alone seemed to change the air. Staff members lowered their eyes. Even Chae-rin froze for a moment, her expression shifting from anger to something like relief. "Seo-tae," she said quickly, cradling her wrist. "She attacked me. You saw it, didn't you? Do something." Seo-tae's eyes moved slowly from Chae-rin to Victoria. For a long moment he said nothing. Then he walked straight past Chae-rin, completely ignoring her, and stopped in front of Victoria. "I apologize for this mess," he said, his voice calm but carrying quiet authority. He extended his hand toward her, not as a stranger, but like someone greeting a person he respected. Victoria blinked, caught off guard, but shook his hand carefully. "You didn't do anything wrong. I should have handled this sooner," he said simply. Over the venue speakers, an announcement echoed through the halls. "Attention! Judge Yoon Chae-rin has been relieved of her duties. Effective immediately." Chae-rin's face drained of color. "What? No. Seo-tae, what is this?" He didn't answer her. Instead, he turned to lead Victoria away, his guards falling into step behind them. Chae-rin rushed forward, blocking their path, desperation cracking through her cold exterior. "You're really going to walk away? Because of her? Are you abandoning me for some outsider?" Victoria stopped walking. She turned slowly, studying Chae-rin's face, then looked at Seo-tae, and something clicked into place. "Fiancée," Victoria repeated quietly, almost to herself. Her expression changed, guarded now. "If this is really your fiancé, then I don't think I should continue any business discussions with you." The words hit Seo-tae like a blow. His jaw tightened. "She ceased to be my fiancé," he said, his voice suddenly sharp and final, loud enough for everyone in the hallway to hear. The moment she attacked an innocent participant, unprovoked. Chae-rin's mouth opened, but no words came out. Seo-tae gently excused Victoria past her, and they walked away together, his guards closing the path behind them like a wall. "You'll regret this!" Chae-rin screamed after them, her voice cracking with fury and humiliation. "You hear me? You'll regret this. Seo-tae." Neither of them turned back. Later that evening, after Grace had safely completed her performance and impressed the remaining judges, Victoria sat across from Seo-tae at a quiet restaurant overlooking the harbor. "I have to admit," Victoria said, stirring her tea, "when we started talking online about this business collaboration, I didn't expect our first real meeting to involve me twisting someone's wrist." Seo-tae almost smiled. "I didn't expect to admire someone more for doing it." They both laughed quietly, the tension of the day slowly melting into something softer, something new. But miles away, in a quiet apartment across the city, Chae-rin sat alone, her wrist wrapped in a bandage, her makeup smudged from crying. Her phone was in her hand. She stared at a photo of Madame Han, Seo-tae's mother, scrolling through old messages, old visits, old memories. Her expression hardened. "If he's letting go of me," she whispered to herself, "then someone is going to pay for it." She began typing a message, her hands trembling, not from sadness anymore, but from something far more dangerous. By the next morning, Madame Han was missing, and a message had already been sent to Seo-tae's private line, $10 million, or he would never see his mother again. Seo-tae read the message twice before it fully registered. $10 million, or he would never see his mother again. His hand tightened around the phone until his knuckles turned pale. For 1 second, the calm, controlled businessman disappeared, and something far more dangerous took over. The version of him that people whispered about in fear. "Get everyone ready," he said quietly to his head guard. Now. Victoria arrived at his office within the hour, having heard the news from one of his staff. She found him standing by the window, jaw tight, eyes distant. "Seotae." She stepped closer. "Talk to me." "She took my mother," he said, his voice low. "Chae-rin took her." Victoria's stomach dropped. "Do you know where?" He shook his head slowly, and then stopped. His eyes lit up with a sudden thought. "The necklace." "What necklace?" "I gave Chae-rin a necklace last year," he said, already moving toward his desk, pulling up something on his tablet. "She never took it off. Not once. It has a tracker in it. I had it installed after a security scare months ago. I forgot. I completely forgot." Within minutes, a small blinking dot appeared on the screen, marking a location on the outskirts of Busan, near the old shipping docks. "Let's go," Victoria said. "This isn't safe for you. Your mother needs help," Victoria said firmly. "I'm not staying behind." He looked at her for a long moment, something shifting in his expression. Respect, maybe even love, steadying into certainty. He nodded once. They moved fast, his guards fanning out around the abandoned warehouse by the docks. Seotae entered first, his presence alone enough to make the 2 men guarding the door step back in fear. Inside, Madame Han sat tied to a chair, her composure surprisingly steady despite the situation. Chae-rin stood near her, pacing, her earlier polish completely gone, hair messy, eyes wild, voice sharp with desperation. "Seotae," Chae-rin said when she saw him, forcing a smile. "You came? I knew you would." "Let her go," he said, his voice flat and cold. "Not until I get what I asked for," Chae-rin snapped. 10 million. That's nothing to you. You spend more than that on nonsense every year." "You kidnapped my mother," Seotae said, stepping closer. "And you think this ends with a wire transfer?" Chae-rin's confidence cracked slightly. "I have nothing left here. No family, no fiancé, no career. You took all of it from me. You took it from yourself," Victoria said quietly, stepping into view. Chae-rin's eyes snapped toward her, fury boiling over. "This is your fault. If you never showed up, if you never abused your position," Victoria cut in, "none of this would be happening. Don't blame me for choices you made." Seotae's guards moved in swiftly, restraining Chae-rin before she could react further. She screamed, thrashing against their hold, but it was over. Seotae rushed to his mother, untying the ropes around her wrists gently. "Uma, are you hurt?" Madame Han shook her head, though her hands trembled slightly. "I'm fine. Just shaken." He helped her stand, wrapping his coat around her shoulders. As they walked out, Chae-rin was pulled past them by security, still shouting, still blaming everyone but herself. Madame Han watched her go, her expression unreadable for a moment. And then, quietly, she said, "I always thought something felt wrong about her. She hid it so well." "She hid a lot of things well," Seotae said. "I should have seen it sooner." Madame Han's gaze shifted to Victoria, studying her carefully. "And you're the one who stood up for that girl at the competition." "Yes, ma'am," Victoria said respectfully. Madame Han's expression softened, the first real smile breaking through. "Thank you for helping bring my son to his senses, and for helping bring me home." Later that week, Seotae formally introduced Victoria to his mother over dinner. No tension this time, only warmth. Madame Han asked about her work, her family, her sister's performance, listening with genuine interest, occasionally teasing her son about how nervous he looked. "He never gets nervous," Madame Han said, amused. "Not even during board meetings with grown men twice his size. But look at him now." Seotae cleared his throat, clearly caught, and Victoria laughed, a real, easy laugh that filled the room. Over the following weeks, their bond deepened. Business discussions turned into long conversations that stretched late into the night. Their collaboration flourished, Victoria's branding expertise paired with his resources, creating something neither of them expected to enjoy this much. But beneath the work, something softer kept growing. Grace, meanwhile, had advanced further than anyone imagined. She was heading to the finale, now being held in California. The night before Victoria's flight, Seotae found her packing in her hotel room. "So," he said, leaning against the doorway, hands in his pockets. "I wanted to ask you something before you leave." "Ask away. Go out with me, properly, when you're back." Victoria paused, smiling, as she folded a shirt into her suitcase. "After my sister wins," she said. "Then yes." He raised an eyebrow, stepping closer. "That's confident. She's earned it." "Well then," he said, smiling. A rare, full smile that softened every hard line on his face. "That makes me her biggest fan. Number 1. Taking your place in the front row." Victoria laughed, swatting his arm lightly. "You wouldn't dare steal my seat. Try me." They argued playfully back and forth, the warmth between them undeniable, until laughter settled into something quieter, something certain. The next morning, Seotae personally escorted her to the airport, his guards keeping a respectful distance. "I have some matters to settle here first," he said, "but I'll be there in time for the finale, I promise." "You better be," Victoria said, adjusting his jacket collar gently. "Your number 1 fan title is at stake." He pulled her into a tight hug, holding on a little longer than necessary. "There's still so much ahead of us," he murmured. "Business. This. All of it." "I know," she said softly. "We'll figure it out." They held on to each other for a moment longer before finally letting go. As Victoria walked toward her gate, she looked back one last time. Seotae stood there, hands in his pockets, watching her with the kind of quiet certainty that needed no more words. Weeks later, news broke quietly across Busan. Yoon Chae-rin had been formally sentenced for the kidnapping of an elderly woman, her case closing with no sympathy from the court. But that story belonged to the past now. Ahead of Victoria and Seotae lay something new, a partnership built on respect, a love built on protection and truth, and a future neither of them had planned for, but both were ready to walk into, together. If you loved this one, make sure you like this video and subscribe to the channel, because we've got so many more Afro-Korean chemistry stories coming your way. Strong Black women, powerful Korean men, real drama, real love. Turn on the notification bell so you never miss the next one. Thank you for watching, family. I'll see you in the next story.